allergy season is coming upon us. This morning, I'm going to be talking about, do you have a sense of direction? Do you? It's very interesting to think about this. As I study in the teaching and observe people who are studying the teaching and then think about our lives, started back from when we were little children, small children. Some of us had a sense of direction. And when I'm speaking about sense, I'm not talking about today and tomorrow, and I'm truly speaking about senses. The teaching tells us that we have not only physical senses, but we have astral senses, mental senses, and so forth. When we take that into consideration, it tells us that we can have a sense of direction physically, we can have an emotional sense of direction, mental sense of direction. So that takes on different dimensions of understanding of what it means to answer this question, do you have a sense of direction? So I would ask you this afternoon, tonight, when you do your evening review or morning meditation, to ask yourself the question, do I have a sense of direction? This is a thing that sometimes karma interferes and blocks our sense of direction. So that's another point to take into mind as you're answering this question later on today or tomorrow. If I don't have a sense of direction, is it blocked? Why is it blocked? Is it karma? Is karma blocking my sense of direction? Then the other point is intuition. The greater your sense of direction, at some point, that sense of direction becomes intuition. See, so this is another point to think about regarding a sense of direction. If you have a sense of direction, now keep in mind, I'm not just talking about physical senses, but physical, astral, mental, spiritual sense of direction. At some point, as your sense of direction becomes deeper and deeper and more clarified, that sense of direction becomes intuition. Once your sense of direction is intuitive, there is no going back. There is no zigzag from one point to the next point to the other point. Intuition takes you right to the bullseye. I know there's a better word, I can't think of it. Bullseye. You're going to hit the mark. So, here's a story. One evening, the night watch caught Nasrud in his garden, prying open the window of his own bedroom. "What are you doing, Nasrudin?" asked the watchman. "Have you been locked out?" "Quiet," whispered Nasrudin. "My family tells me I walk in my sleep. I am trying to catch myself and see if it's true." In essence, this sweet story has an important message. Do we have a sense of direction in our life, or are we sleepwalking? When Christ was talking about the prodigal son who told his father that he was leaving home to wander all over the world, we can see the prodigal son lost his direction. A young boy, Kunji, asked his mentor, "But dear teacher, how will I know it's my destiny?" The answer, this is very, very powerful answer, so pay attention. The answer is, his mentor said, "Like love, it will possess you. You can't help but know." Now, I wanted to bring this into the talk this morning because I knew it was inevitable. I would be getting emails. How do I know if I have a sense of direction? So here's your answer. Like love, it will possess you. See, this is another aspect when you try to answer this question this afternoon, tonight, tomorrow morning. Do you have a sense of direction? Is there something in your life as you have progressed from the time perhaps you were 3 or 5 or 7 or in your 20s or 30s, even in your 70s, where there was something like love that has possessed you, that nothing can deter you? That's how you know you have a sense of direction. Now it is time that humanity feels the call and the direction and goes toward that direction. We must all develop direction in our life. But I believe it is not so easy to have direction. And this is why, if it were easy, we would all be masters right now. To know your direction requires a special sense. Just as the birds, think of this, some birds have a sense of direction. This is a simple example, like homing pigeons, and we don't really even have many homing pigeons around these days, but we read about flocks of birds and how they migrate from one place to the other place according to season, right? And they go right back to the same little lake that they had zeroed in on, see the bullseye, zeroed in on the year before in that same season. So there's something in some birds where they have this sense of direction. It's a special sense. We are told that Christ, in the teaching, that Christ was a dynamic person. He tried to overcome everything that was difficult and to make himself a master of difficulties. When he was teaching, he said, "The kingdom of God must be taken by violence." Today, that word means something very different than it did back in the days of Christ. So when we read this, where he said the kingdom of God must be taken by violence, think about 2,000 years ago, not today. 2,000 years ago, violence meant that sense of direction, that a love that possesses you, that nothing can change it. It means dedication. It means commitment. It means hard work. It means energy. So when Christ was saying the kingdom of God must be taken by violence, he was saying with dedication, with commitment, with a fierce love that possesses us, with hard work and energy. He didn't say after retirement. or during your days of rest. If you are looking for easy things, you're going to be a weak person. Only difficult things make us a powerful person. Arthur C. Clarke, one of my favorite authors, scientific author, he said, "It is a pity that there is no radar to guide one across the trackless seas of life. Every man had to find his own way, steered by some secret compass of the soul. Yet sometimes, late or early, that compass can lose its power and spin aimlessly on its bearings. That's karma." It seems to me that Mr. Clarke was missing a piece of something that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. When we are in contact with the light of our higher self, that light fuses with our soul, and it is then that we will not lose our sense of direction. We become soul infused. When we live in the light of our higher self, this puts our life in a different dimension. And when you enter this dimension, you are going to fulfill your human destiny and no longer aimlessly circle around the same wheel, incarnation after incarnation. So we're going a little more deeply now into this sense of direction, that this sense takes us from one life to another, to another, to another. With each success that you have, you will know that you have direction in your life. So success, measure your successes. When you're answering this question this afternoon, tonight, in the morning, or maybe on into the week, measure your successes when you answer that question. You have not only heard the call, but you are responding to the call. If you have a sense of life direction, there is something within yourself that has responded to a call, either in earlier lives or in this life. Now, don't worry about, say, well, if it was in an earlier lifetime, then how am I supposed to know? The answer is, you will hear it again. Every lifetime, once you hear the call with a capital C, every single subsequent life will remind you of what you heard and what the content of that call was. If you have a sense of life direction, there is something within yourself that responded to the call. We call it the hearing of the call. The hearing of the call. Now, broaden your perception here, because that call is broadcast all over the world, but not everyone is listening or responding. So that tells us that this sense of direction that you have is not just for you, yourself alone. There will be others with the same sense of direction, and you will be walking together. The Father that is calling his children back home is not finding a response in the ears of human beings because they have lost their sensitivity to that call. Many have lost that sense of growing toward the future. When humanity finds that sense and develops that sense, their whole life will change because their life will go toward the right direction. This is why we must have heroes, whether it's a spiritual hero or another type of hero. We become almost addicted in our thinking and imitating these heroes, our spiritual heroes. I think of like Torquem Serdarian, who was a spiritual hero to so many of us, and how I watched the men begin to imitate him. It's very interesting. Why? Because we're addicted to what they represent. And in that addiction, let's call it that dedication to imitate that person, whether it was, Torquem or Helena Rourke or Nicholas Rourke or others that are on the same path as ourselves. We wanted to become like them. And so what's happening is they carry a light with them. And within that light, within that beam of light, within that ray of light, they carry a call. And that call, if we respond, initially we begin to imitate them until we find our way, until we find that sense that corresponds with our life purpose. And then they become, still for us, they become our source of inspiration. But now we are aspiring because we've responded to the call that is giving us that inner sense of direction. So like those birds that migrate to that same lake every season, for us, each incarnation, we migrate back to where we left off and pick up the ball again and carry it from one life to the next to the next. And we will have these beautiful light bearers that carry this beacon of light, that keep that path lit for us so that we can find the light. And these light bearers are our heroes. So what does it mean to go toward the direction? It means that all the activities of your physical life are going to be goal-fitted. In other words, in harmony with the goal toward which you are going. If you turn against your goal and the soul whispers in your ear that you must turn north, and you go north, then you have direction. If you do not respond to that whisper in your ear, then you do not have direction. If you do not respond to that whisper in your ear, then you do not have direction. You do not have that sense of direction. If you're going to be a doctor, but you are not studying, you are not disciplining yourself, you do not have enough time, you don't have enough money, enough energy, then you're not going to have any success. You don't have direction. I know students of the teaching who want to be a teacher of the ageless wisdom, but they do not engage in regular rhythmic meditation. They do not engage in focused study. It takes many lifetimes to be qualified to teach the ageless wisdom. See, it doesn't just happen. You don't just fall into it. It is a serious matter to teach the ageless wisdom so you do not misdirect people through a lens of distortion. I was thinking on the way over here this morning about these wonderful gifts that Torquem Saradarian and gave to us, and Helena Rourke and Nicholas Rourke, and how I believe, I trust in every single word they say. Every single word they say. We are taught in society today not to trust. Those who have taught us not to trust are those who are not trustworthy. So, why follow those who are not trustworthy? So it was almost, even though it was right there in front of me, it was almost revelationary that I don't question the teaching, because the teaching has proved its trustworthiness. So if you want to be a teacher of the age's wisdom, there are certain disciplines you must engage in to prepare yourself. To distort the age's wisdom is a serious spiritual crime. But to be prepared and trained and eventually become a teacher of the age's wisdom is a joy. It's a great joy for all of us. When you have a sense of direction, when you feel the direction, then you're going to harmonize all your physical activities toward that direction. You are like a magnet that polarizes and orients millions of iron fillings in the same direction in patterns. When you find direction, your physical cells and your etheric and emotional and astral and mental atoms become a symphony in the keynote of the direction. For example, you want to become a teacher of the ageless wisdom, then you must have that direction in your heart. And you must begin to renounce all the things in your life that takes you south instead of north. As soon as you begin to prepare yourself, as soon as you begin to study and meditate and make yourself ready, a teacher will come and you will begin your creative destiny. Your creativity now has direction. This is very important. To develop that direction in you, you are going to do 3 simple but very important exercises. And you read about these exercises not only in Torquem's writings, but interestingly enough also in Nicholas Rourke's writings. 3 exercises: beauty, goodness, and truth. This is what puts us in the right direction. Beauty, goodness, and truth. Anytime we do anything against beauty, against goodness, against truth, we are going to stop it because we are not in the direction, in the right direction that will take us north. It'll take us east or south or west, and we lose our compass, our North Star. You lose the direction. When you lose the direction, you become a false person. You become a separative person. You become ugly in your physical, emotional, and mental activities, and you don't care anymore. You have lost your compass. You have lost your direction. If you are teaching the ageless wisdom and you lose your direction, You will turn people against beauty, against the goodness, against the truth of the teaching. They will see that you are a hypocrite. I've seen this happen in large ways, immense ways, where a teacher will proclaim he is a world teacher, and in the beginning years appears to be, and will gather like a magnet so many people around him. But eventually, little by little, that light in your higher self will expose the hypocrisy in that pseudo teacher. But what happens, it begins to eat away at your insides, and then you lose your love and your joy for having found what you thought was the right path but wasn't. To me, it reminds me of, in that famous saying by Torkham in his book, Challenge for Discipleship, you find the right teacher for the wrong reasons, you find the wrong teacher for the right reasons, so on and so forth. So if this has happened to you, where you've left the path or left the ageless wisdom because that person disappointed you, reevaluate your situation, your thinking, and ask yourself, why did I find a wrong teacher? You found the wrong teacher for the right reasons. But when you have lost your direction, your orchestra becomes chaos. Your physical cells, your etheric, emotional, and mental atoms become chaos, which means you lose your health, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual health, in proportion to losing that sense of direction. If 10% of you loses the direction, then 10% of your sicknesses, again, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual sicknesses, increase because your atoms, your cells, and the system in your body are not functioning as an orchestra, as a symphony. They have lost the direction. The spiritual life is a personal, individual discipline within yourself so that you sublimate and transform yourself. Daily, you must have at least half an hour or 1 hour to do these things if you want to enter into the direction of your life purpose. You are going to develop that sense of direction. Sitting in silence is a way to find the direction. This is the practical side of it. When you are going to make a decision, you take a few deep breaths. Don't think about any decision. Take, let's say, 10 deep breaths, then relax, and then keep silent and ask for direction. Pretty soon it becomes automatic. When a person loses a sense of direction, he becomes like an animal. The difference between animals and human beings is that one has a sense of direction and the other did not yet develop it. It starts with instinct, then conscience, and then sense of direction. Instinct, conscience, and then sense of direction. Daily, you must have at least half an hour or 1 hour to check yourself. Then at night, half an hour before you go to sleep, check yourself. You can ask yourself these questions. Was I walking in the right direction today? What did I do that was out of the direction? I said these things, I spoke those things, but they did not fit into my sense of direction. I did these things, but they didn't fit there. I was thinking in this way, but no, that did not fit the direction. When you eliminate the things that are not fitting the direction, the sense of direction then becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. When the sense of direction is really developed is when it becomes your intuition. In intuition, you know how to walk. Just like a musician, you are composing and orchestrating your life in the keynote of the direction. So isn't that beautiful? Cooperation will help your sense of direction. So try to develop this sense. It is only the sense of direction that will make you able to find Shambhala, the Father's home. There is a great joy and expansion when you are going back home, and the sense of direction takes you there. From the physical viewpoint, the sense of direction will give greater health to your entire beingness. Karma, look how interesting it is. Karma is produced when you do things that are out of direction. If you do things that are not in harmony with the direction, you create karma, and karma then makes you late. It increases your suffering, your pain, and your physical troubles, so that you have to pay whatever wrong you did, and then find your direction. Karma is a blockage on your path. You must clear and pay that karma to find the next direction. But if you have the direction, you do not have karma. You don't have bad karma. You don't have bad karma because direction does not create karma. It is so interesting. If you sit down and think, who is controlling? Or what is controlling my life? Is my body controlling my life? Of course, 80 or 90%. My emotions, my thoughts. Where are you? If effects are controlling you, you are not healthy. If you are a cause, you are creating and recreating your life according to the patterns of the direction which you know. For example, look at the emotional nature. Do not create tensions and pressures in your emotional system, because any pressure, any tension in your emotional body will reflect to the etheric centers, and the etheric centers will reflect to the glands of the body, and your body will suffer. When you take the disharmonious vibration from your emotional body, your emotional body returns to harmony, fits back in the orchestra. You don't have karma there, only love and peace radiate out from you. It is so important that in silence you sit sometimes and say, Lord, what should I do? Let me feel it. Let me sense it. Let me know it. Then as much as you know, try to use it. I said that there are three things that are important to our sense of direction: beauty, goodness, and truth. But in reality, there is also a fourth thing, which is the practice of harmlessness. If you follow these 4 things, then you are very fortunate. And eventually you will find your direction. And let me close with this. You are going to develop this sense of direction. When you do this, your whole life will change. Your home will change. Your relationships will change. Your creativity and understanding will change. All your relationships change once you feel the direction. You don't need anything anymore. See, just direction. So that's just the introduction to understanding the sense of direction.